Welcome to HardScript.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She ended our marriage over breakfast. No fight. No tears. No visible anger. Just one line, dropped between sips of black coffee and checking her phone. I think we're done here. I didn't respond. I just looked at her. She didn't meet my eyes. She scrolled. Took another sip. Like she just canceled a gym membership. That's how 10 years got erased. In a voice colder than winter glass. She didn't pack a bag, didn't storm out, just stood up, placed her mug in the sink, and said she'd be staying at her sister's for a while. No apology, no explanation, just calm, calculated detachment. She wanted control over the narrative. She wanted to be the one who walked out while I sat there looking confused, helpless, abandoned. But I wasn't confused. I'd been watching the distance grow for months, watching the late-night texts she never explained. The weekends with friends I'd never met. The fake smiles. The casual contempt. I'd already buried the version of her I married. So when she said it, when she ended us, I didn't flinch. I just memorized her tone. The way she tried to turn the page like it was her story alone. I let her leave without asking a single question. That's what broke her first. Not the ending. The silence. Because women like her, they don't expect men like me to stay quiet. They expect begging. Questions. Pleas for closure. But I gave her none of it. Instead, I cleaned the kitchen, took out the trash, opened my laptop, booked a storage unit across town, started moving the parts of me she didn't even notice I still had. No text, no call, no chase. I left her with her decision, and I made mine. She thought ending the marriage would give her control. She thought she'd watch me spiral, hear through friends that I was lost, broken, bitter. She didn't know I'd been planning my exit long before she made hers official. And she had no idea what silence from a man like me really meant. Because when I go quiet, I don't come back. Not as the man she once knew. Not as the man she thought she could leave behind. She walked out with power in her voice. She had no idea I was the one who held the real power. Because I wasn't losing her. She was about to lose everything. The thing about silence is it spreads. By day 3, I'd cleaned out my side of the closet. Not the clothes. Not yet. Just the small things. The watch she gave me on our 5th anniversary. The leather belt I wore the night we signed mortgage papers. The cufflinks from my father's funeral. Gone. No note. No conversation. I wasn't being cruel. I was being precise. Intentional. Surgical. Because while she packed her bags to make a statement, I was removing history from the house. She texted me that night. I'll be back on Saturday to grab more stuff. I didn't reply. Saturday came. She walked in like she still lived there. Shoes on. Sunglasses still on her face. She didn't look around. Didn't pause. Just moved straight to the bedroom like she was on autopilot. She took her clothes. Her skincare shelf. Her yoga mat. But she didn't take the photos off the wall. She left those behind. Like some part of her still believed she might come back. That was her first mistake. She said something as she was leaving. Light. Breezy. We both need space. This is probably healthy. I just nodded. That silence, it hit harder than any insult I could have thrown. She didn't understand yet. She thought she'd pressed pause on us. I'd already hit delete. That night, I started the process. Removed her name from the emergency contact form at work. Froze the joint savings. Rerouted every bill under my name. Changed streaming passwords, banking logins, email recovery questions. Not because I was angry. Because I was done. This wasn't emotional sabotage. It was clarity. When someone shows you the value they place on your life, don't negotiate. Just calculate and exit accordingly. I cleaned the guest room. Stripped the bed. Donated the things she used but never appreciated. Threw away the old scented candles she swore helped her decompress. I opened the windows, let the cold air cut through what she left behind. And I started sleeping better. The strange part? I didn't miss her. I missed the man I used to be before her. The one who didn't question his worth. The one who wasn't walking on eggshells in his own home. The one who laughed more, spoke less, and lived loud. So I started bringing him back. Day by day. I woke up earlier. Worked out harder. Took longer showers. Played music while I cooked again. Real music. Not the fake Spotify for couples playlist she insisted on. I went for a drive through the hills that Sunday. No GPS. No timeline. Just the road. The kind of thing she used to complain about. What's the point of driving nowhere? She once asked. That was the point. Freedom doesn't have a destination. She called me later that night. Not to check in. Not to apologize. Just to see if I'd pick up. I didn't. Because the moment she said it was over, I took her seriously. More seriously than she ever expected. She wanted to be the one who left first. But I'm the one who never came back. And that's what she still doesn't understand. I didn't lose her. I walked away from the version of myself who tolerated being unseen. And I never plan on meeting that man again. The first time I noticed her losing grip wasn't when she reached out, it was when others did. A friend of hers, someone we double-dated with a few times, sent me a message. Hey, I just heard. Are you okay? I read it twice. Not because I was shocked, but because it confirmed what I suspected. She'd started talking. Not to me. Not to someone who'd hold her accountable. But to people who'd give her sympathy on demand. I didn't respond. Not to her friend. Not to her cousin who followed up a few hours later. Not to the mutual acquaintance who accidentally liked an old photo of ours and then unsent it a minute later. She was trying to control the narrative, shape the fallout, cast herself as the one who made the hard decision for both of us. The brave woman who needed space to rediscover herself, while I struggled emotionally. That's how they do it, isn't it? Leave you. Then spin the story like they were the victim all along. But I didn't correct anyone. That's the beauty of the new me. I don't need to explain myself. I let her speak. And then I let her drown in her own contradictions. She came by the house again. Claimed she forgot a box in the garage. I left it on the front step. No key. No conversation. Just a sealed container with everything she left behind, including the little scarf she used to sleep in, the one that still smelled like lavender. She knocked. I didn't answer. I watched from upstairs as she stood there, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. I scanning the door, waiting for movement, for some kind of acknowledgement. She waited 12 minutes. Then she left. That night, I deleted her from the last shared album on my phone. Not just hidden, gone. I started going out more. Not bars. Not dates. Just out. Hikes. Long walks through the old downtown streets. The kind of solo rituals that make you remember you're still your own person. The interesting part? I started running into people who hadn't seen me in years. They all said the same thing. You look different. And I did. Not thinner. Not stronger. Just clearer. Sharper. Like someone who'd been through fire and came out not just alive, but refined. One of them asked if I was single now. I just smiled and said, I'm free. The difference? She was single. I was free. She texted again 2 days later. Said she missed talking. Said she didn't expect it to feel this empty. I didn't reply. She made her decision. Now she was standing in the silence she created, surprised by how loud it echoed. I changed the locks that week. She hadn't lived there for nearly a month, but I wanted the action to match the energy. No keys. No codes. No access. A friend of mine helped with the installation. As we finished, he asked if I wanted to have a drink to celebrate. I told him I already did. Every time I chose peace over chaos, that was the toast. Every morning I woke up alone in a quiet house, that was the celebration. And every message I didn't answer, that was the closure. The kind she'd never get. Because closure isn't something you ask for. It's something you earn. She tried to write the last chapter. She forgot. I hold the pen. It always starts with memory. When control fails, when silence holds, they turn to nostalgia. Suddenly, she remembered everything I used to love. The candles I liked in winter. The brand of whiskey I'd drink slowly on Friday nights. The old black hoodie she always borrowed, now folded perfectly in a paper bag she left on the porch with a sticky note. Thought you might want this back. I didn't open the bag. Didn't smell it. Didn't smile. Just tossed it in the trash without flinching. She didn't leave because she didn't love me. She left because she thought I never would. She thought I was permanent. The kind of man who'd always wait, always chase, always believe in the idea of us no matter how many pieces she broke. She was wrong. Because by the time she realized she missed me, I wasn't me anymore. The man she left? He didn't exist. That man used to check her social media. I didn't. That man used to replay old voicemails just to feel close. I didn't. That man used to stare at the door, wondering if she'd walk through it with a changed heart and softer hands. But I had stopped looking at the door altogether. That's when she tried to get closer. Not physically. Strategically. I got a message from her sister. She's not doing well. I didn't ask why. Then one from a mutual friend. You two really over? I didn't respond. She wasn't used to being irrelevant in my life. She was used to being the orbit, the gravity, the sun. And when the attention shifted, When I stopped treating her silence as loss and started using it as freedom, it shook her. So she tried something new, vulnerability. Not real vulnerability. Just the version of it that gets attention. She posted an old photo of us from a beach trip years ago, captioned with a single sentence. Some memories hit harder than others. It got likes, sympathy, comments from people who didn't know the story. She left it up for 12 hours, then deleted it. I never acknowledged it. She texted me later that night, said she was thinking of me, said she missed how we used to talk, said maybe we gave up too soon. I left it on read, because here's what she never understood. When a man like me stops arguing, it's not because he's calm. It's because the outcome no longer matters. I don't care why she left. I don't care what she regrets. I care about the life I'm rebuilding from the ruins she thought I'd never escape. I'd repainted the living room by then. New shade. Lighter. Brighter. A different energy. The kind that doesn't carry echoes. The kind that absorbs light, not sorrow. I changed the pictures on the wall. Landscapes. Places I wanted to visit. Faces I hadn't yet met. There wasn't a single trace of her in the entire house. And when her name showed up on my phone again, 2 days later, I didn't even flinch. Because she wasn't real anymore. She was just static. Noise. A name trying to claw its way back into a story I'd already ended. And I wasn't writing sequels. The first real crack showed up not in her voice, but in her image. Social media, her battlefield of choice. Where she once posted filtered brunch photos, curated candid couple shots, and motivational quotes she never lived by, suddenly, the content changed. Now it was stories about self-love and healing alone. Selfies with tired eyes and long captions about how some people aren't meant to stay. But the comments said more than she ever could. Friends asking, "Where's he been?" One of her cousins replying, "Wait, are you guys okay?" And then silence. I didn't engage. I didn't even check them directly. A friend of mine sent me screenshots, shaking his head. "She's spiraling," he said, trying to get a reaction. I gave her nothing. That was my answer. The more quiet I became, the louder she got. One day, I walked into my regular cafe. The barista smiled, asked how I was. I gave my usual nod. She hesitated, then said, "Saw your wife's post the other day. Hope you're okay." I smiled, not because I was okay, but because she wasn't my wife anymore. Not in spirit, not in name, not in memory. She was a stranger wearing the clothes of someone I used to trust. She thought ending the marriage gave her power, that she'd walk away and remain the main character in both our lives, that I'd orbit quietly, hurt and patient, waiting for her next move. Instead, I cut the line, and I didn't just drift. I built a new gravity, new habits, new friends. I started hosting small dinners with people who never knew her, never asked about her, never used her name as a reference point for my story. And when someone did, I shut it down fast. She's not part of this version. One evening, I got a message from her mother. Polite, controlled, cold. She asked if I was okay, said her daughter wasn't herself lately, and that maybe you two should have a real conversation before everything's lost. I didn't respond, because everything was already gone. Not lost, removed. With precision, with intent. One day, I saw her across the parking lot at a grocery store. She saw me too, but she didn't wave, didn't smile. She just stood there, frozen for half a second, like she couldn't decide whether to approach or disappear. She chose the latter, and I understood why. The man she left behind had vanished. In his place stood someone colder, clearer, untouchable. The kind of man who doesn't yell, doesn't chase, doesn't even flinch. I paid for my groceries and left. No text followed. No, "I saw you today" message. Just more silence. And while silence used to be the thing that destroyed us, now it was my weapon, and her punishment. It was always going to come to this. The moment she realized the silence wasn't a pause, but the end credits. She showed up at my door 2 months after she left. Not a text, not a call. Just stood there like it was still her home. Hairstyled, makeup soft, jacket she knew I used to love. She'd spent time on this version of herself. She wasn't there for closure, she came to rewind. But I didn't play her games anymore. I opened the door just enough. She smiled like she was trying to remember how. Said, "I was in the area." I just stood there. Let her fill the void with nervous words. She said she missed the smell of the house. Said she missed the way I used to make coffee. Said she hadn't been sleeping well lately. I didn't invite her in. Didn't ask questions. Didn't even lean on the frame. That's when her voice dropped. She said maybe we gave up too fast, that she'd been thinking a lot, that therapy opened her eyes, that people make mistakes. I nodded. She asked if we could talk. Inside. Said she didn't want to lose me for good. I said she already had. She blinked like someone just shut the lights off. Then came the panic. Not yelling. No screaming. Just that broken rhythm in her voice when she asked if I'd met someone else. I didn't answer. Because it didn't matter. She wasn't asking about me. She was trying to locate her own power. And she couldn't find it. Because I'd taken it back piece by piece. With every unanswered message. With every unreturned call. With every moment I chose peace over permission. She looked past me into the hallway, like expecting to see some part of her life still in the frame. But there was nothing. No scarf. No shoes. No memories. Just a space that no longer belonged to her. She said, "You're really done, aren't you?" I nodded once. She stepped back. Looked at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. That's when I realized. She didn't. Because I was no longer the man who needed her to understand why. I was the man who moved on without needing revenge. No closure. No final conversation. Just the quiet power of walking away without slamming the door. I said, "Take care." Then closed it. Slowly. Softly. Not because I was gentle, but because it was already sealed. That night, she texted again. Said she didn't expect that version of me. I didn't reply. Because that version? It's who I was all along. She just never saw him until he stopped waiting. It didn't happen overnight. But slowly, quietly, people started seeing her for who she really was. Not because I told them. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't spread rumors. Didn't defend myself. Didn't post vague quotes or seek sympathy. I just lived. And the truth? It revealed itself. The first shift came from her inner circle. Her closest friend unfollowed her. Her cousin removed all the pictures of them together. One by one, the loyalty she'd assumed eternal started fading. Because people can feel when a story doesn't add up. When the woman who claimed to be strong starts posting cryptic regrets. When the independent soul begins sounding more like someone who needs an audience to survive her own choices. Meanwhile, I was building. New circles. New conversations. People who only knew me as I was now solid, composed, unavailable to drama. At work, my performance improved. Promotions that had been just out of reach started landing in my lap. I wasn't distracted anymore. I wasn't drained. I was free. And people noticed. One of my coworkers pulled me aside after a presentation and said, "You've changed, man." In a good way. I nodded. Didn't elaborate. Let them draw their conclusions. She, on the other hand, was trying to stay visible. Dropping comments on mutual friends' posts. Showing up at places she used to avoid. Laughing too loudly in rooms that no longer belonged to her. It was transparent. She was hunting for relevance in a story that had outgrown her. Then came the twist. One of my closest friends, someone who used to talk to both of us, ran into her at a party. Later that night, he sent me a message. Said she was different. Bitter. Restless. Said she talked about me for most of the night, but not as the villain. As the absence. She told him she didn't expect it to be this permanent. That she thought I'd eventually crack. Come back. Ask why. Beg. I didn't reply to him either. Because I don't need updates on people who made their exit. I don't need to know how her story's unraveling. I only care that mine isn't. The weight I used to carry, her moods, her needs, her validations, it was gone. Replaced with clarity. With purpose. With strength she never believed I had. Because she didn't want a strong man. She wanted a quiet one. A predictable one. A man who would carry her shame for her and call it love. But that man is gone. I deleted the last photos of her that week. Not out of anger. Just alignment. You can't walk into a new chapter while rereading the last one. And when she reached out again, this time with no pretext, just a blank message, I didn't even open it. Because that's all she had left now. Ghost texts. Old regrets. An audience that stopped clapping. And a man who'd finally stopped looking back. By the time fall came around, everything felt different. The air, the pace, the mirror. I wasn't just healed, I was rewired. There was no residue of her. No stray thoughts. No emotional hangover. Even her name, once a trigger, was now just a name, like hearing a song you used to like but outgrew without realizing it. I'd built a life that didn't reference her. Not once. I changed my route to work. New gym. I stopped visiting the old coffee spot where we used to sit in silence and pretend it meant connection. I didn't avoid her. I erased her. But she hadn't erased me. She still searched. still reached. Through other people, through proximity, through the smallest cracks she hoped I'd left open. But my doors were welded shut. That's when the invitations started. Just a group hangout, one friend said. No pressure. Another asked, "You okay if she's there? She might show up." I declined every time. Not out of fear. Out of principle. I don't sit at tables where I'm no longer hungry. Then it happened. The final attempt. She showed up at a fundraiser I attended, a formal event I helped organize through work. She wasn't invited. Someone brought her. Said she was just tagging along. She walked in like she belonged. That was her move, comfort through familiarity. She forgot the man she once knew was gone. She saw me across the room, in a suit she'd never seen, smiling, confident, surrounded by people who never knew her story. And for the first time, she didn't approach. She stood by the wall, glass in hand, watching, waiting. I didn't break, didn't look her way, didn't let the room shrink to just us. Because I'd outgrown that space. Later that night, someone told me she left early. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Didn't smile on the way out. She just disappeared. And this time, no one followed her. No one asked where she went. No one needed her presence to feel the night was whole. She wasn't the sinner anymore. She was a shadow at the edge of the room. I got a message the next morning. Just 2 words. "I'm sorry. I didn't open it. I saw the preview." That was enough. Because forgiveness isn't something I owe her. It's something I gave myself the day I stopped waiting for her to understand what she broke. The difference between us was simple. She lost something she thought would always be there. I lost someone who was never really present. And only one of us grew from it. You can always tell when they've hit the bottom. It's not in their words, it's in their silence. Not the strategic kind they use to punish you. The empty kind. The kind that comes when they realize you're not playing anymore. When they finally stop talking, not because they've moved on, but because you have. She hadn't posted in weeks. No cryptic quotes. No filtered photos. No attention-seeking captions. Just absence. And it didn't matter. Not to me. Not to the people who used to care. Because silence from someone who used to dominate every space isn't mysterious. It's irrelevant. That week, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. Slanted. Neat. Slightly too controlled, like someone still trying to curate how they're perceived. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the table. Let it sit. It wasn't anger holding me back. It was disinterest. That's what real healing looks like. Not rage, not revenge, not even sadness. Just detachment. After 2 days, I opened it. 12 lines. All carefully crafted to sound reflective, humbled, mature. She said she understood now. Said she saw where it went wrong. Said she wished she had appreciated what she had before she broke it. But the line that stuck with me? "I thought you'd always be a part of my story." That was her final misunderstanding. I was never a part of her story. She was a chapter in mine. And I'd already turned the page. She didn't ask for a second chance, not directly. She knew better. She just lingered in that gray area, hoping regret would sound like romance. It didn't. It sounded like static. I folded the letter. Didn't tear it. Didn't keep it. Just placed it in the recycling bin. Because that's what it was. A leftover. Something that used to carry meaning, but now only took up space. That weekend, I went out of town. Hiking trip. Solo. No signal. No distractions. Just silence, the kind I chose, not the kind forced on me. I stood on a ridge overlooking miles of untouched land, wind slicing through the trees, sky wide open. And I thought, this is what it feels like to be unreachable. Not invisible. Not bitter. Just unfindable by the ones who took you for granted. I didn't miss her. I didn't wish her well or ill. I simply didn't think of her at all. Because some ghosts only haunt you if you leave the door cracked. And I'd sealed mine shut, rebuilt the walls, and moved far beyond the address she still whispered into her regrets. There was no final call. No tearful confrontation. No last-minute apology under rain. She just faded. And I stayed gone. It wasn't a victory. It was a release. Of weight. Of memory. Of everything I once bent myself into pieces to hold on to. They say time heals. They're wrong. Time just clears the smoke. Healing is a decision. And I made mine the moment I chose silence over permission. She reached out one last time. A photo from the first year we met. Captionless. No context. Just a snapshot of a man I used to be. I looked at it for 5 seconds. Then deleted it. Not because I hated her, but because I loved who I'd become more than I missed who I used to be. That's the part they never expect. That you'll stop longing and start evolving. That you'll stop bleeding and start building. That the silence they thought would break you becomes your shelter. I'd started traveling. Alone. Nothing dramatic, no plane tickets to new countries. Just driving. Long roads, unfamiliar exits. I'd sit in diners with people who didn't know my name, and that anonymity felt more intimate than any past we shared. One night, I stood outside a beach motel, watching the ocean eat the moonlight. Waves crashing like reminders, nothing stays. And nothing should. A couple walked by, laughing, holding hands. For a split second, I wondered if she ever imagined this future. The one where I didn't just move on, but upgraded. She'd probably tell the story differently. That she was the one who left. That I didn't fight. That I let her slip through. And that's fine. She's entitled to her version. But I know mine. I know the nights I rebuilt myself one habit at a time. The mornings I stood in a mirror and didn't see sorrow, just sovereignty. The days I walked past places that used to hurt and didn't feel a thing. People still ask sometimes, whatever happened to her? I just say this. She's not part of the story anymore. Because that's the truth. She ended a chapter thinking I'd bookmark it forever. But I didn't just close the book. I burned it. Wrote a new one. In ink she'll never touch. So if she ever drives past my house again, if she ever scrolls through old photos, wondering if I still remember, let her wonder. Let her feel that silence stretch forever. Because when she left, she thought I'd wait. But I didn't wait. I disappeared. And now, even if she screamed, I wouldn't hear it. Because I'm too far from the man who would have listened. You wanted silence. Here it is. And now, it's only yours. Real men don't explode. They exit. Subscribe for more power stories.